Welcome back, everybody, to the Stretford Sessions, the United podcast we bring you each and every week on the upper tier. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Of course, audio versions of the show are available through Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Joining me tonight for a big match preview coming to you Saturday evening, 5:30, live from Old Trafford. Man United versus Tottenham Hotspur. Dazzler, how are we?
I'm still recovering, pal.
Yeah.
It's been a long week since we got our asses handed to us by City, you know, in the derby. Defeats are always difficult to digest, but I think the manner of Sunday's defeat was what really did it for me, if I'm honest, you know. And obviously the first half we played pretty well. We were in the game, maybe coughed up too many chances, but second half was just awful. Just as awful as it could have been, you know. I don't think we could have pictured anything worse. And you know, obviously you go down 4-1 to your local rivals, and it just it was an awful lot of questions. I feel this week going into this Spurs game, you know.
Yeah, I suppose it's not even the result and the manner of the result. It's all the wave of shite that comes out after it, trying to justify it or explain it, or you know, this, like, when did we get to a stage where footballers come out apologising to fans because they played shite? Like, it's just fucking come out and do your job, like, you know what I mean? The amount of apologies is just shocking.
Yeah, and like, listen, I can understand from a club standpoint and from a PR standpoint where somebody might say, lads, you know, you might want to fucking mention something on your TikTok or on your bleeding Twitter or on your Instagram about, you know, sorry lads, we let you down the weekend and we feel shit and X, Y, Z and blah, blah, whatever. But, you know, it's overkill now. Well, certainly for United it is, you know. Well, I don't think we've seen too many of those from the Liverpool players now, you know,
well,
or too many from the City ones.
The fact is now people know that it's not actually the players writing it, that they have people doing their social media and stuff like that. So it's not even, you know, it's not even the likes of, you know, Marcus Rashford coming out and going, sorry lads that I never even kicked the ball when I came on. You know, it's someone else is spinning this yarn out there that you as fans have to suck up and digest. And I just thought it's weird as well, isn't it? There was a bit of shifling as well, you know what I mean, within the group. You know, you see McTominay's interview after it and he was saying, like, you know, we need to do better up front. Well, of course you need to do better up front, but look, fucking do your own job as well. You know what I mean? And then you have Maguire being interviewed as well, saying, you know, we need to be better in possession. Mate, you had 8% possession for 15 minutes in the derby at one stage. Cop on. You know what I mean? Let's call it what it is, you know?
Like, yeah, but that's you know, if you've only got 8% possession, that's because you keep coughing the ball up as well. You know, so he's not wrong in saying that.
No, he's not wrong, but it's just, you know, the way it feels. It's like as if I'm taking your watch off your wrist to tell you the time. You know, that kind of way. That's where I'm coming from. It's not what they're saying is wrong.
No,
it's the fucking obviousness of it. You know what I mean?
And you know, I had a discussion with a fellow United fan today. You know, and we spoke about a clear out. You know. He says, who'd you get rid of? And obviously we did this on Sunday in the pre-match or in the review. Yeah. And I says, well, like, you know, we get rid of this fella and this fella. We'd gone through maybe the keepers and the defenders, and he launched into, and Fred, we have to get rid of Fred. And I just thought, why? I said, well, he's not good enough. He's not good enough. And I says, okay.
Because that's what every other Man United group is saying online, is it?
I says, he might not be good enough. I said, but I tell you what, give me a guy who'll go out there and put his heart out there and put his soul out there and play for the jersey and play for the badge like he does every single week. The lad's come out and said himself, in his own words, I might not be a superstar, but I will give you 110% every week. This is exactly the problem we have at Manchester United. Yeah. There's no point in having Paul Pogba when he goes out and gives you 40%. There's no point in having Marcus Rashford when he goes out and gives you 40%. There's no point in having Jesse Lingard 40%. You know, guys aren't showing up to games, and they're big guys. They're the guys we rely on. So yeah, absolutely, I'd be looking for a huge exodus in the summer to get rid of some of the dead wood we have around the club and stuff like that. And but Fred, he wouldn't be near the exit door for me, I have to tell you. And McTominay wouldn't be near the exit door either for me. And I know there's a lot of United fans say, we won't win that with McTominay and we won't win that with Fred. But to win anything, to win a game, you need guys who are going to go out and put a shift in. And at the minute, we've too few of those guys around the team and around the squad. you know, and that has to be addressed before you address the quality issue. You know?
Yeah, I think when people hear you talking about it, I think there's a confusion from them as well, because I think at times what you would be saying is basically, yeah, you need that kind of a McTominay type player. You need that kind of Fred. You need those workhorses in there to blend with the brilliance of some of the key players that have signed and stuff like that. But I think you always talk in terms of a squad that even if there is a reshuffle and players are brought in, it might not necessarily be that McTominay starts. It might not necessarily be that Fred starts, but certainly both guys sitting on your bench will greatly improve your bench as well and give you options and stuff like that as well, which is fundamental to being successful in the league.
Absolutely. And you know, like, I suppose if I to pick one of the two boys, you know, I think McTominay's a good footballer. I really, really do. I think he's got an awful lot about him. You know, I think he's still quite young, but I still think he tries to take on that leadership role at times at United. He can pass the ball. He has an eye for a goal. He's got a good engine on him. I think he could be more clever and smarter in games, you know, with his game management and stuff like that. I think he plays the game in the way he views it, like in that sort of a passionate sense, you know, where he's going full tilt all the time when, you know what, maybe you need to sit back and have a look around and see, you know, sit and look at the play and find what you need to get out of that position yourself rather than just being busy all the time. You know what I mean?
He lacks just that little bit of not experience and not maturity, but somewhere in between.
It's like nous. It's just that little bit of, you know, what to do and when to do it. You know, and but certainly, like, the kid has all the attributes to be a very, very good footballer at United.
So some would argue as well. I mean, he hasn't had a proper level of coaching as well. You know, that proper coach that would go in there and bring you on to that next level. You know, we spoke about this before, even with Mason Greenwood, and I know there's issues there at the moment, and it's park and stuff like that. But if you look at Mason Greenwood, he was an absolutely fabulous footballer. You can't take that away from him, and a brilliant finisher, and probably one of the best finishers that the academy has produced over time and stuff like that. But yet, if you look at his career over the last 3 to 4 years, it's quite stalled. He's quite still the same player that he was when he came in and lit it up initially. And a lot of that is to do with, if you have a really good coach there who coaches you.
He's only 2.5 years into it, though.
Yeah, you know, no, absolutely. That's what I mean.
He's still very, very raw in his early days, you know, and like we've seen glimpses and stuff like that when he likes to check back in onto that left foot and ping one in or whatever. But you're right, there's always been, or there has been in previous years, in recent years, I should say. Yeah. Now, United always looked like a team that maybe weren't well coached. And I don't think that's anything we can argue with, to be honest with you. City are a team well coached. You know, Liverpool are a team well coached. Southampton are a team very well coached. Yeah. Brighton are a team extremely well coached. So it's not necessarily that we're picking, you know, the biggest teams in the league and saying that's it and that's it. It just so happens to City and Liverpool are two of the best coached teams in the league. But so are Southampton, so are Brighton, you know. And they don't necessarily have the budgets, or they don't necessarily have the class of manager that we would look at Liverpool or City. Yeah. So it is possible, you know, and those guys, Potter and Hasenhüttl, are able to drill it into those lads on a daily basis what they want. Our guys don't look like they know what they have to do, which would tell me that the message is getting blurred and stuff like that, and they're not fully aware of what it is you want out of them. Do you know what I mean? And who can do a job when you don't know what it is?
It's kind of like once they go on the pitch, there's an element of nearly self-coaching in-game kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at Scott McTominay, and as you said, he wears his heart in his sleeve. He's all about passion. He'll get stuck in and he'll give you 110%. But there's times when you need a top-level coach there to turn around to him and go, you know, we need all of that off you. But there's times when we need that. And there's times when you need to let that fester and settle and be ready to go when it's needed. You don't need it 90 minutes of every game where you come off the pitch thinking that you've absolutely busted your balls and you've got no reward for it. You know what I mean? Yeah, and you think that that's what's required and what's needed to do. Sometimes you have to peg back off that and see a game for what it is and how it's evolving. And I think coaching brings that to you, coaching experience. And I think with a lot of these guys, especially the likes of McTominay and the younger lads going on, they're nearly trying to figure out, it's nearly like the expectation of the fan base is they want us to get stuck in the way Keane used to get stuck in and stuff like that. But what they forget is there was a totally different blend in there when Keane was in there as well. Yes, he was that guy that did that job. But then you had Scholes there, you had Nicky Butt there, you had Ryan Giggs there, you had all these other blend of players that made it work.
And I mean, like, you know, this is a conversation that was had, you know, 10 years ago when Wayne Rooney was at Man United and Sir Alex Ferguson was telling him, you don't need to get involved in everything. This isn't Ryder Rovers. You know, you're a striker. Come alive when you get the ball in that box. Don't come alive at the corner flag. Don't come alive at the centre circle. Don't come alive on the edge of our box. And it's not that you're not looking for work rate, but players need to play in certain positions in order for you to get the best out of them. You know, and Rooney can't be a striker and couldn't score goals if he was picking up the ball in the centre circle to pass the ball to who? Oh, he's not there because he's on the ball.
Shades of what we spoke about Mikel Antonio recently with West Ham. Exact same thing, you know.
Yeah, so you know there is a little bit of that about it, you know, but I mean it's this weekend's. It's going to be a tough game for us. Obviously, Tottenham on the end of a massive result last weekend. You know, 4-0 is just it's almost the exact opposite of what we had, and you know there's an 8-goal swing there, and you know they've obviously done City up like a kipper a couple of weeks ago as well. So you know they can be on their day. Spurs can be one of the top teams in the league. Now, we haven't maybe seen the level of consistency that Antonio Conte would have wanted since he came in. I think Conte now is finding as well what he likes and what he doesn't like from his aspect. You know, I think in the first few games he came in, we've seen an awful lot of the boy Emerson Royale. And in the last couple of games, he's been pulled. And I see something today about, you know, such and such a team is looking at Emerson Royale to try and get him out of Spurs. I think that'd be delightful for Antonio Conte, because at the minute he looks like he favours Matt Doherty. You know, in that role, maybe he's not exactly what he wants, but he's certainly the best of what he has there. Even on the other side, you know, you were seeing a lot of the boy Reguilon initially. Last few games, it's been Ryan Sessegnon. Yeah. You know, and that's coincided with maybe an upturn in fortunes as well. And you know, we spoke about this as well. And yeah, so Spurs are finding what's working for them. Obviously, they got the boy Christian Romero back, and they've been able to put him in alongside Ben Davies and Eric Dyer and stuff. They've got Kulusevski and Son playing off Kane pretty well, and then in the midfield they got Hallberg and Bentancur. Like, so this is. It's going to be a really tough game for us, I have to say.
Yeah, I really like what he's done with Kulusevski, because what he's done is he sat down with, it looks like from what I've seen the last few weeks, he has sat down with Harry Kane and said, you know, your job is to put the ball in the back of the net. You know what I mean?
And I suppose, like, maybe, and you know, I'm not trying to take anything away from the other guys that played in that position, but I think this is the first time in a while Kane has looked, Kane has looked and he's gone, well, I know Son's going to do it on this side. And I also know Kulusevski's going to do it on this side. So I can afford to stay in between the width of the posts. Yeah. Whereas previously, you know, all the pressure was on Son to do it, because maybe that right-hand side floundered a little bit with the likes of Lucas Moura and stuff like that. And it did not always happen. Yeah. And then Harry ends up coming out deeper to pick the ball up, because he knows when it goes right, it's not going to come in where he wants it and blah-de-blah. Whereas now, he looks at the two boys. I think he feels like he's confident in the two lads, in Kulusevski and in Son. And he goes, yeah, I can stay inside this 18-yard box. I can stay inside the width of these posts because I feel like I'm going to get on the end of something. And that's when Harry Kane's going to be on his best, you know?
Yeah, I suppose looking at Bentancur going in there as well, he probably feels like he doesn't have to drop as deep anymore to become that kind of playmaker nearly for those guys. So he can now just focus on doing his job, as you said, in between the sticks, operate within that box and stuff like that. Let the boys out wide do their job. Let the boys in midfield do their job. I don't need to be dropping so deep anymore and taking myself out of the game, which is what he was doing a hell of a lot of prior to recent times.
And also you've got the two wing backs. So you've got Doherty and you've got Sessegnon, who are joining Son and who are joining Kulusevski. Yeah. Are getting much higher up the pitch and stuff like that, and managing to get balls in the box, because, you know, Kane's a poacher, ideally. You know, that's what he wants to do. He wants to be in that 6-yard box. He wants to be around that penalty spot. He wants to be getting on the end of balls, headers, and, you know, first time little side foots when the ball comes across the box and that. So, I mean, he's adapted his game massively to come short and to pick up the ball and try and get others into play. And that's brilliant that he could do that. But I think if you're Tottenham Hotspur, you want to see them inside the width of that post, don't you?
That's where he should be. all day, every day. And
Absolutely.
if he's not, you're setting up wrong or you have something missing there.
Yeah.
The amount of games where he was dropping so deep to pick up balls and try and play. So he's playing like a midfielder, like, and you're just there going, you're not going to get on now. This is ridiculous, like, you know.
No.
In terms of current form at the moment, I suppose with United as well, it's a huge week coming up for United because they've Atletico as well on Tuesday. So that's going to be a massive game as well. It's their last chance at a trophy in reality. And I think there'll be a lot of focus on that as well. But is this a top four? Would you say this is a top four race eliminator nearly?
Not for me. And the only reason it's not for me is I don't believe we can get top four at the minute. You know, again, we've got Spurs, we've got Liverpool, we got Chelsea, we got Arsenal, and we got Leicester. That's 6 of the top 8, if I'm right. 6 of the top 9. Sorry, 5 of the top 9.
5, yeah.
Like, those games are the games we haven't necessarily been showing up and performing in. And unfortunately, with the way the results have gone in the last number of weeks, we haven't capitalised on having that good run of games when Ranić came in and stuff like that. It puts a lot of pressure onto those big games. And personally, I don't think we have what it takes to go through those. Like, we'd need to go through those 5 games unbeaten. You know, and I can't see it. You know, I can probably see us losing 2, maybe even 3 of them, which is the scary thing.
Yeah, you don't see probably one of those runs coming together like what you might have seen maybe under Solskjaer. Remember where you might go on some sort of amazing run where you put together 3 or 4 results or something like that. I think at the moment with the team at the moment, it's void of confidence. It knows it's under an awful lot of pressure. It's like as if it's nearly on the edge of surrendering it. You know what I mean? And
I think there's a number of things that aren't helping. You know, obviously you've got the contractual issues at the club for Ranić to begin with. He doesn't know what's going to happen come the summer. I know he's spoken about he knows who his choice for the job would be. Hopefully it's Erik ten Hag. I see tonight on Sky. Ten Hag is extremely keen on the United deal, on United talks. Excuse me. But so far talks haven't happened. That's something that has to happen. You know, we're 10 games out from the end of the season. If we want Erik ten Hag to come in, conversation has to be had pretty soon for my money, so that on the last day of that season, if we, you know, whatever happens, we can at least set the summer off on the right foot and say, okay, here's our new manager. He begins on the 1st of July, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then we give him the opportunity to get in and have a look at some of the players. And listen, he's got to be making his mind up based on what he's seen at the minute, though. If he is the man to come in, and I think if it's Pochettino, if it's Hasenhüttl, whoever it is, somebody's got to be looking at this United team thinking, right, well, Jesse Lingard, he's gone out the door. We know that. Paul Pogba, he's more than likely gone out the door. You know, Harry Maguire, he should never come in the door. Ronaldo, he's probably out the door. Cavani, another lad going out the door. You know, what are you up to there? You're up to 5 there. Anthony Martial may come back. Unless somebody's able to send a message to Anthony Martial's brain to have a conversation with his feet, he may as well not come back. You know, so Donny van de Beek, Donny's not covered himself in glory at all at Everton. He's had 2 decent games and 2 where he's been absolutely pummeled. So again, that asks us more questions instead of answers. And then again, you've got more of the back 4, and you've got, like, it's just so much up in the air. There really, really is.
Huge amount of work to be done.
Huge amount of, and I would say a huge amount of work, even to get us in a position next season where we're challenging for the top 4. And that's, like, I know, you know, that's a big statement, but without the addition of a serious football coach and 4 to 5 players, next season won't be much different than this one.
It's going to require fundamental backing from the Glazers, isn't it? Because this is like I don't even, like, you think about the forward line that's moving out and stuff like that, Cavani, Ronaldo and stuff like that and all, and you wonder, are the Glazers going to pony up to bring in 2? You know what I mean? And you're just looking at, and that's only there. We haven't spoke about midfield. We haven't spoke about defence. You know, we haven't spoke. There's so many other things that are going on.
Yeah,
Guys
well,
out of contract. You know what I mean? Paul Pogba potentially will leave and go on a free. Who are you going to bring in to replace Paul Pogba? Now, some will say, oh, we're not really looking to replace Paul Pogba. Other would say, well, listen, his creativity and stuff like that, you're still not needed to bring
yeah,
in a top level midfielder to
you
replace him.
still got it. You still listen. You have to replace him
Yeah,
as poor as he's been at times. You know, he's a body, and
yeah.
at times he can be our best player by a country mile. You know, we've seen it. Again, the issue is the level of consistency and the level of you know, he doesn't put himself out there in a United jersey. He doesn't look like he carries that jersey like it means the absolute world to him, which anyone who plays for United should feel like that. And anyone who plays for Liverpool or City, they should respect that jersey and the history of their jerseys and stuff like that and go out there and just carry them to the best of their ability. And Pogba doesn't do that. Pogba, for me, he's that kind of a peacock, isn't he? It's all plumage and it's all feathers with him, and it's about the end game for him and, you know, what that means for his deal. And
It's a Paul Pogba show.
Absolutely. And I think we need rid of that type of shite at Manchester United for a little while, you know. I think we need rid of Pogba. I think we need rid of Ronaldo again. It's something similar to the Pogba issue. But I mean, like going on what we're talking about there, you know, it's gonna cost big bucks.
Yeah, especially you look at the Pogba one. I mean, that's 90 million going out the door on a free. It's going to cost you to get a decent quality midfielder in there. What are you talking? Somewhere between 45 and 55?
Listen, there's a couple of midfielders around Europe that are coming close to the end of deals and stuff like that we could, if we were clever, we could go about this. Like, you know, you'd need a centre-back, okay? Now, we know now the situation Chelsea are in. We know they can't negotiate contracts. This Antonio Rudiger deal becomes even more, you know, of a deal we should be trying to get done because there's no transfer fee attached to it. Yes, we're going to pay him big money, but we're going to pay guys big money who we've paid 50 million for. Yeah. So why not pay a guy big money who we've just got in the door from one of our rivals on a free and who will improve us dramatically? You know, like going in next season with a back four or with a centre-back pair of Varane on the right and Rudiger on the left would be massive for United. Absolutely massive. And there's the boy Boubacar Kamara at Marseille, who is absolutely unbelievable. You've heard me talk about this kid before. He is one to watch on the watch list. Almost in the mould of a Paul Pogba, as in from a creativity point of view, but seems to put an awful lot more work rate in, you know, and he's a little more box to box rather than only wanting to go one way. This kid wants to run the whole game. He almost feels like Ryder Rovers, but he's good enough to be able to do it, which is, you know, again, he goes out on a free this summer. So that's somebody, again, you know, we need to be tapping him up. Like if you got, you know, the likes of him and Rudiger in the door for what, 400 grand a week between the pair of them, you've replaced a centre back and a midfielder, and it's only cost you, you know, your wages. And it will be huge for us, really, really, to have two guys like that down the spine of the team. And that then would free up money for, you know, maybe a secondary striker and a headline act. But I don't personally think the headline act is going to be, you know, at the level that we've seen before, because I don't necessarily think they're all out there. You know, like other than Haaland, you know, who are you going to get? So this is going to have to be a clever move from United. This is going to have to be maybe something outside of the box. I know there's been talk of it. If it's Erik ten Hag, would he take the boy Sebastian Haller from Ajax, who was lit up the Eredivisie and has lit up the Champions League this season with his goals? Now, United fans have already heard him say, but he didn't cut the mustard at West Ham. Okay, and I'll take that on board, but he obviously knows how to play in the system that Ten Hag wants him to play in. He obviously knows where the goal is because he's battered teams so far this season. He was a kid we looked at when he left Germany and before he went to West Ham and our interest only kind of dipped off as the poor spell came through at West Ham. So he's gone back out to Ajax. He's again proved himself. He's proved himself on the domestic and on the European stage as well with Ajax. He's another kid you might look at and go, let's try and get him in. He'd probably cost you somewhere in the region of 40 to 50.
This is kind of going to be, I mean, if you look at what Arteta has done at Arsenal, where he's had to bring in a certain level of player and stuff like that, but he's kind of had to go through nearly a re-education of the fan base, hasn't he? To figure things out. And I think United are going to have to go through that a little bit as well, where at times the expectation is the fan base, well, we should be in for Declan Rice, we should be in for Haaland, we should be in for Mbappe, blah, 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 Lewandowski, whatever it is, you know what I mean? I think what's going to happen is you're going to, as you said, you're going to have to do a brilliant job in the transfer market of bringing in guys like these other guys. And the fan base is going to have to understand that there's a bigger picture here in the revolution of the squad and stuff like that, and how it's going to, you know, Marcus Rashford might go, you know what I mean?
We can't go out and spend 70 to 80 million per player and buy 4 or 5 players.
Exactly.
That can't happen. That doesn't happen in world football. You know, because of financial fair play and stuff like that.
The likelihood is anything that goes out the door is going to go out either potentially on a free or else it's going to go out at a loss.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're not losing that on Marcus Rashford because, you know, he's a product of the youth system, which is great. And
in a move should generate good money.
You should be getting 60 million for Marcus Rashford anyway.
Yeah,
maybe 70. Depends on if PSG get involved, if Barca get involved, stuff like that. The guy has a great profile, obviously, what he's done in the UK and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of teams will be high on Marcus Rashford and they would see it as a floundering United that was dragging him down as opposed to a floundering Rashford, which was dragging United down. I think his stock would still be quite high. I think you'd see Barca, I think you'd see Real, I think you'd see PSG, Juventus, all interested in a Marcus Rashford at the 60 to 70 million mark. You know, could you get 30 million for Anthony Martial? I'm not sure. If you could get 100 million for the 2 boys and get them out the door, I think that'd be phenomenal business.
I think in terms of Martial, United would be just looking for a home, wouldn't they? They'd be just looking for a home. Look, I think they just need shot, don't they? They're going to have to take the pain on some of these, aren't they? Look at Maguire. If you do land Antonio Rudiger, if he came in, Maguire kind of has to go, doesn't he? You won't even want him on your bench, will you? No,
of course you won't. And listen, here's the good thing about that, though. You know, because you've made that massive outlay on him, you will lose money, but you'll still get a relatively good transfer fee back in the door. You could absolutely see a Harry Maguire at a Newcastle or an Everton or something like that, provided Everton stay in the league. That's somewhere where he'd go and flourish, or a West Ham. You know, West Ham tried to be in a couple of centre backs. David Moyes would love a Harry Maguire.
What are you recouping off at 35, 40 mil?
I think you can squeeze 50 out of it.
You think so?
I think off the 80, I think you can. You know, it's slightly more than half, but listen, it'd be unbelievable. It's 65% roughly. If you get 65% of the 80 million, you'd be doing all right. That'd be about 50 million. You get that money in, you get the Martial money, you get the Rashford money. You're probably looking at 30 to 40 million for Dean Henderson.
Yeah, Jesus. I mean, there's just the more you talk about it, the more business evolves out of it, doesn't it? Like, because you only talk about these guys going out and the next thing going, Dean Henderson there as well, and Phil Jones and Eric Boy and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and before you know it, you're just revolving through the whole squad, like, you know.
Yeah, and that's where the numbers are going to rack up. But listen, we can't be silly and think this is all going to happen in one window.
No.
You know, this is going to be probably an 18-month process, which is 4 windows.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In terms of the education of the fan base, you're gonna have to take a bit of pain in this to get to where you want to get. See, not that you're not taking pain already. I mean,
no, but your problem with the fan base is, and this is the issue we would have with football these days, is the fans are so fickle. Today's hero is tomorrow's hero, and vice versa. You know.
Yeah.
Like, I try not to get off too much of an even keel when I'm talking about United, because I always feel like we're not a million miles away from being at it, but we're also not a million miles away from being on the end of it either. You know what I mean? So you've got to kind of keep that level, that even head about it, because otherwise, just, you know, you wouldn't watch the game, would you?
Well, otherwise, what happens is you get encapsulated in the forums and the talk and the stupidity of what goes on. And then all of a sudden, you're so dug down into that you can't see your way out of it. And that's what's happened with some of the fan base. They're just entrenched in this whole thing. Like it's.
Yeah, I read a lot, but I comment on very, very little because I wouldn't have the time to get into the conversation with the level of moron you're dealing with when you're talking about this stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I mean that in the nicest possible way, but you know, at times football fans are idiots. They really are.
Well, we know from. I mean, like your level of respect for, say, the likes of Fred, often puts you in hot water with the fan base because they see him as an easy target. Like he met, like you look at the City game the other day, and the comment after that was, "Oh, look at Fred there just jogging around and a big smile on his face. What do you want him to do? Lie down on the ground and start crying?" You know what I mean? He's a guy who enjoys his football. He's trying to put a brave face on a shit situation, and it's not necessarily being generated by him.
Absolutely not. And he's a guy that went out and did as much as anybody to make sure that that situation didn't arise. Yeah. You know, but you can only do so much, and after that, you know, like you need everyone pulling in the same direction. And this is the biggest issue we've had with United this season. You know, we've carried passengers all year.
Yeah,
we've never gone into a game and looked like all 11 players were at it from the word go. You know, when De Gea had a bad day, you know, we might have got through something, and then somebody else had a bad day, and then De Gea got them through it, and it just we always seem to dovetail like that. Whereas I didn't look at too many performances this season and think, Jesus, every single player out there was immense, you know. And I've seen other teams go out this season and have performances where every single player was immense. But it hasn't happened for us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Bit of team news anyway. Ronaldo and Cavani remain doubtful. I'm sure you'll be devastated at that.
I saw Ronaldo certainly sprinting in training today, which should be a good sign. And I'd imagine Cavani has to be close enough based on the fact he was pretty close last weekend. So you'd have to think he's going to be in the mix-up. And I also see Rafael Varane has declared himself fit for Saturday as well.
Varane's back in training.
Which
Shaw's
is great.
Still ill. It looks like Dalot might come back in instead of Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
He was awful. He was so poor. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, you know. Yeah. He was so poor. And you're kind of looking at it. And the biggest issue on Sunday I would have seen was we've only got 3 substitutions. So, you know, you probably wanted to change 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, I only get to change 3 of these. So obviously you change the 3 at the top end of the pitch based on the fact you need goals to get you back into that game. Maybe you're 3-1 down. But I mean, you're not going to win games playing the way Aaron Wan-Bissaka played, playing the way Harry Maguire played. Yeah. So in theory, we probably should have went and changed a couple at the back and hope that the guys up front got something right, you know what I mean, off a platform.
Or else get a note onto the pitch to Aaron Wan-Bissaka saying, you wouldn't go over there and loaf that post so we can have a concussion sub or something like that, would
something like that.
You know what I mean? It's just...
Absolutely.
It's weird. What are you thinking about Rashford at the moment? Does Rashford start at the weekend? He made a big hullabaloo earlier this week about the amount of game time and stuff he's getting. Now, we know he was shocking on Sunday, came into the game, and in fairness, he's had a shocking season.
Shocking.
But is this where your agent or your press people or yourself, you're leaking this information out to the press and you're saying, I'm not happy with my game time this season, and everyone's turning around going, you're absolutely fucking pony this season, you know what I mean? What are you talking about? It's on merit, like, you know. But is this a case where Ranić looks at that and goes, I don't want to mess with this tidal wave, I better put him in?
No.
You don't see him starting?
How could you start? How and where could you start them? I suppose the
problem, what I'm saying is, like, I mean, he's been starting players not based on performance.
Here's the only way I see him starting. Only way I see him starting is if Ronaldo and Cavani are still both out and he plays them through the middle of Elanga and Sancho, because he can't take Sancho's position and he shouldn't take Elanga's position, which means the only spot up for grabs in that front 3 is up front. Now, listen, if Ronaldo and Cavani are fit, he's probably third choice. If the boys aren't there, he might go up the list. Pogba and Bruno did a lot of the striking last weekend, let's say. The pressing from the front, the sauntering in Pogba's case. Pogba should come out, 100% should come out. We need to go in with McTominay and Fred, and we need to go in with Bruno, and we need to go in with Elanga, and we need to go in with Sancho. And then it's all about who's available for the last spot. If Rashford's the only guy available of the three, I play him. If he's not the only guy, I probably play whoever else is ready. But for me, he doesn't get in ahead of the two wide boys. Not a chance.
I just wonder with all the shifting about all those forward positions. I have a sneaky feeling he's going to start Rashford. I really do. And I don't know why it is, but I just think when a player comes out and moans like that, suddenly they're flavour of the month and they go in. And we've seen that in a number of players this season with him.
Won't happen.
Bit of team news from Tottenham as well. Session Young to miss out, so he got injured, so he'll be replaced by Reguilon, as we spoke about earlier. Yeah. Tanganga and Skip are both out, still injured, both carrying knocks. We would expect Matt Doherty to keep his place. He seems to be the flavour of the month for Conte at the moment, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Over Emerson Royale. The boy Emerson Royale has been a little bit exposed, to say the least, this season. If we're looking at possible starting lineups, and I know you're going to have a view on this because I took a view on this based on what I think Ranić might do, So I went
which starting lineup do you want me to give you first?
Well, I'm gonna go with what I have here for United, and then I know yours is gonna look very different, I would imagine.
Right, De Gea.
Yeah.
Dalot.
Yeah.
Varane.
Yes.
Lindelof.
No.
Telles.
Yeah.
McTominay.
Yeah.
Fred.
No.
Bruno.
Yeah.
Sancho. Ronaldo. Yeah. Elanga.
Yeah. I think Maguire is in there in the lineup, which is absolutely shocking. But I just think he'll do that. Pogba is in there in the lineup. And I have Rashford in there.
Pogba was the joint first to get hooked at the weekend. Pogba doesn't play this weekend.
Interesting.
Well, he certainly doesn't start.
Mm.
He also got dropped to the bench a couple of years ago against Spurs. I don't know if you remember, for a game at Wembley, I think it was. And he came on and won as a penalty, and we drew the game 1-1, and he got all the plaudits after the game. And he'd been lollipopped at that stage as well. And I see something similar maybe, because I think Mr. Pogba makes a much better impact off the bench than he does from a starting position these days. Because he waits till the fizzle and the pop has gone out of that midfield, and he comes on and picks the bounds of it. Because I think other than that, physically, he's not up to it.
Yeah. If you look at Spurs at the moment, obviously Lloris, Romero, Dyer, Davis, Doherty, the triple Ds, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Reguilon, Kulusevski, Kane, and Son.
That'll be it, yeah.
I think if there's anything you can take advantage of there, I think Ben Davis and Eric Dyer. Although I think Dyer has looked a slightly bit more solid under Conte.
And I think the boy Reguilon, because he hasn't been playing a lot lately, and the reason he hasn't been playing a lot is he's the Spanish version of Trent Alexander-Arnold. He likes to play on the front foot, and he's not akin to defending. So I mean, there's got to be space in behind, and that's why obviously Conte's playing with the three at the back to try and give that little bit of extra protection and stuff like that. But I mean, that's the side Anthony Elanga should be playing on. Maybe him and Sancho will swap sides throughout the game and stuff like that. I could see that happening again, which has happened recently. Yeah. That interchange, but that's where I'd be hammering home. I'd be saying, listen, guys, as City did last weekend, they seen Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Pep Guardiola went, butcher them, absolutely butcher them. He targeted them from the off, go down that left-hand side, tear this kid asunder. We know he's not good of, positionally, get in behind him, create problems, create a bit of chaos in the centre of that defence. That's what they did. That's what you'd have to try and do. The exact same thing. We know Hugo Lloris isn't a goalkeeper that comes out and commands the area very, very well. He's he likes to stand on the line. He's a good shot stopper and stuff like that. But from a United point of view, we need to try and get in behind the two fullbacks, Doherty and Reguilon, and get balls into the box where we can get guys onto them. Not necessarily headers, because we don't necessarily have great headers of the football, but getting it onto the edge of the box where you have a Fred or you have a Pogba or you have a Bruno coming onto the end of it. You can just, that 1 foot side foot finish,
Yeah. Interesting. Betting, United 11-10, just better than even money. Draws 12-5, and Spurs are 23-10, just over 2-1.
That was a great bet.
Yeah, it's an interesting one as well, isn't it? Because you look at the odds. The odds isn't really reflective of the form. Although Spursy being Spurs or Spurs being Spursy, like it's like they can go out and look sublime, look average, look awful, look sublime, and it's just hard to know which Spurs will show up. But I mean, Conte should have them fired up for this. This is a huge game in terms of the top four race.
Absolutely.
Give us a prediction.
2-2.
And who scores?
Depends who plays, but I'm going to say Bruno +1.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm thinking from listening to you, I'm leaning more towards the draw, which I don't think helps either. If anything, the draw helps Arsenal. Pending
kills
on
us off even further with 2 more points gone down to Swanee, doesn't it?
Pending on their result, of course. Big game against Leicester, it is, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, listen, a pleasure having you on. It was great chatting and stuff like that. I love going in depth as well on the squad and stuff like that, because the tidal wave of work that has to be done on that team in the summer is going to take a really top coach to come in and grab hold of it, and sooner rather than later. Be it Poch or Ten Hag or whoever it is that's coming in, it's going to need to be someone they're going to have their work cut out, and it's going to be a project where the Glazers are going to need to fully support them over the next 18 months to 2 years to get to where you want.
Absolutely.
We will be back, no doubt, on Saturday evening with a match reaction. And then I look forward to next week, the Atletico game. You're going to be over there sharing those moments with the boy.
I'm going to be over there at the Atletico game, and I am going to be live on the road. So we will be checking in a number of times. When we get off the boat, we'll check in. When we get to Manchester, we'll check in. When we get to our first Greg's shop, we'll check in. All the golden moments you have when you're in the UK.
The natural, yeah. Off the boat, up in Manchester, a Greg's shop. I like that.
We won't get to Manchester before we hit a Greg's shop. We'll absolutely stop at a Greg's shop first, Yeah. If you don't have a steak baked by 1 o'clock in the day, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, a pleasure having you on. Let's see how this match goes Saturday evening. Cheers, bud.
Thanks, Paul.